How is everybody?
Great.
You're good? Awesome. So, I don't know formally how most of the talks have gone in the past, but I have about a 10 to 12 minute read for you, and then I'd love to be able to have some Q&A with you, and we can be as candid as we want. That's awesome. Thank you for having me, Mark. I appreciate it. And as far as Livingston and Elk River Books, this just being in Montana is just unbelievable. I'm so grateful, so thankful. So let me start. Preface. Being a public school visual arts educator for 30 years can drive any human to drink. Fly fishing has been and will always be a better choice than the bottle, although some might think that both are a must for a total experience for a full day on the water. This is where my backstory takes hold. I'll never forget a warm, late May Saturday morning. I had just turned 14 and I was high-stepping cow patties through the pasture near my house to get down to the new river as fast as I could. I followed my mentor's protocol and caught my first brown trout on the fly. And there was no one around to hear me scream, witness my dancing, or see my permanent smile. I knew I'd done something special all by myself, and I also knew that I was one of few, if not the only kid who did what I did. I recall thinking, why the hell doesn't everybody do this? This shit is unreal. Fly fishing saved my life, which is why I pay it forward every chance I get. And for as long as I can remember, even at my lowest points, it gave me an outlet to cope and grow from my struggles and heal. Aside from being outside and in tune with nature and focused on solving all the problems in the universe, the sport simply makes better human beings void of a cell phone. I started a fly anglers club at the high school where I taught in order to reach as many kids as possible and to introduce them to something that they might never be exposed to otherwise. And right out of the gate, there was a major discrepancy in the ratio of white males versus any other participants. I wanted to change that because fly fishing is a gift for everyone. And everyone should experience fly fishing. As more young women bought into my anglers club, I began to push even harder for more young women of color. And in the span of about 7 years, women and women of color held every officer seat in my club. This was something that I'd advocated for so long, and it was finally coming to fruition. The young women in my anglers club were the catalyst and my inspiration to write this novel. And along with their inspiration, I was also driven to find some answers to the many questions that I raised as I considered the facts. Roughly 8 million people in the United States have at least tried fly fishing or have said that they have fly fished. 73% are white, 27% are women, 12% of that 27% are women of color, and 2% of that 12% are black women. Why is this? Why don't more women of color fly fish? How can I influence these statistics to change? I mean, look at me. I'm going off script right now, by the way. Look at me. I'm a white male. My protagonist, my heroine, is a African-American female, a black woman. What else can I do to introduce more people to these magnificent creatures of the current through the extension of a fly rod? How do I increase the size of my audience? And in my divine wisdom, I said, I'll write a novel. I'll write a movie script because that's the best way to get people's attention, right? Because everybody can just write a movie script and people will go see that movie and get the movie made. Yes, absolutely. That's exactly what happens. That's how it happens all the time. No, it doesn't happen that way. I'll write a novel with a compelling message of belonging, adversity, empowerment, and encouragement to reform a narrative. Fly fishing has never been and will never be about degrees of melanin, socioeconomics, or gender identity. My vision for this story was built on respect, conscientious research, and illuminating the profound perseverance summoned as the human spirit always triumphs over the human condition. So hopefully when you read Maya's story, many of you will explore the wonders of fly fishing too. Everyone deserves the opportunity to be happy and to learn the valuable lessons fly fishing can teach us all. Sometimes just a taste can summon an insatiable hunger. And you don't know what you don't know until you bite. Chapter 33. Context. Will, when you hear Will is Ed, the other protagonist in the story. Will is Ed's son. When Ed and I fished on the weekends, it was always just the two of us. No customers, no Will. No one except us. No one ever knew where we were. And it was during those times that I'm pretty sure it reminded him of the happy days in Boone when he proverbially adopted me as his own. When we were downtown one day, Ed took me to Powderhorn Outfitters to buy some more ammunition. As we walked in, I was transported back in time. They opened in 1903, and it reminded me of Mass General Store in Boone, which first opened under the name Mast in 1913. The wooden floors creaked with every step that I took. I didn't buy anything, but I just loved walking through. It was just like home. I never knew exactly where we were, but I knew we weren't far from the hustle and bustle of Bozeman. I started blueprinting his drives and making mental notes of the roads that we were on. Ed had scouted a few stretches of water that never got crowded, even from the locals who lived right on top of them. Funny thing is, these spots were hidden gems around Bridger Creek, just up 86 north of town, about 25 minutes. A couple of turns and boom, you're there. And in the middle of nowhere, before you can blink. We were definitely off the radar, and no one ever paid enough attention to work Bridger Creek's magic. But Ed did. Most of the hardcore anglers I knew scouted. Anyone hunts their own secluded water, simply wants to fish whenever they want to. The beauty of it is you hunt, you discover, then it goes in the vault unless you want someone else to know about it. Ed found it. It was like a fairy tale. Ed's spots were always isolated, but this one was special. After we parked, curiously, I looked around and down to see if I had a cell signal. I did, but it registered very, very low, and I thought, I hope I don't need this damn thing while I'm out here. Suddenly, it was like we were in Narnia. We walked into the wardrobe, and abracadabra. Everything opened up into this magical land, Narnia, Montana. It felt like we walked into another world. It seemed like we were way off grid, and even Will wouldn't know about this spot, and he knew just about every inch of water within 100 miles of the fly shop. There's no way he had ever stepped foot into this utopia, and now it was a clandestine legacy. Ed never spoke about it to anyone, so being exposed to it was a privilege. Ed had let me in. Could I ever be this open with Will? I don't know. I never wanted to be that dependent on anyone and go through the pain that Mama and I went through when we lost Daddy. She was never quite the same again, and I didn't want to depend on someone like that. I know that expression, it's better to have loved and lost, blah, 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 but was it really? On the other hand, I'd already loved Will, and though I didn't let him know that, maybe I would never be the same if I lost Will. It wasn't Mama's fault that Daddy died, but if I made the choice to let Will go and move on, which he would it be my fault? Would I be able to live with myself? As we dodged the overgrowth into the clearing, Ed interrupted me and my thoughts. Maya, take a look at this. After searching for the last 40 years, I finally figured out Ralph DeCamp, the painter, stood right here and painted this scene. It's 25 minutes from the house. I was still looking down to avoid getting popped on the ankle by a prairie rattler and wasn't paying attention to what he was showing me. Ed raised his hand and waved his arms from left to right. All of this, it's literally still the same as God made it, completely untouched by man. I finally looked up and all I could say was, wow! I should have paid more attention when my English teacher taught us vocabulary. He pointed into the Bridger Mountains. 2 miles that way was unabated, raw nature. And then he pointed back towards town. 15 miles that way is Bozeman. It's amazing how you can go from a bustling and growing city, cross over this imaginary threshold, and walk right into primeval. Pretty neat, huh? He should have paid more attention to English, too. He stuck his arms out with both thumbs and the index fingers framing the image. I have a print, you know. It's in my office. I like thinking I'm walking into his painting each time I'm out here. This is the place where time stops. He held spots like this close to his heart, like a poker player keeps his cards tight to his chest. He said, this is where I come to talk to Sarah and Maggie, and we solve all the problems in the universe. I figured you enjoy this place too. As I continued to look around nervously, I exclaimed, it's truly a beautiful place, Ed, but aren't you worried about bears, elk, moose, or snakes? I bet not even search and rescue can find us out here. He looked around again and said, Maya, drink this all in. This visual in front of me stopped me dead in my tracks. The picturesque wonder of the creek, layered by mountain peaks that outlined a vapor trail of sapphire sky, completely caught me off guard. It was magical. We were both in our element. Ed didn't seem to mind that a bear could just waltz out of the wall of the trees and bum rush the fish that we were netting. So I surrendered and tried to let his mindset be mine. That task was basically impossible. Every 7 seconds, I looked around and over my shoulder to survey the landscape, expecting to see an angry moose. Ed did have eyes in the back of his head, so I figured if I were on the verge of being attacked by something in the wild, he'd get off at least a couple of shots and I would survive. Hopefully. Instead of jumping right into the river to fish, like Ed did, I stopped and watched him. I studied him. I reflected upon the day Daddy pulled me out of school to fish the Watauga River for the very first time. It was the same surreal experience. I paused and watched Ed and took a moment. This is where he belonged, right here in this secret garden. He became part of the mountains, sky, river, and fish. And I watched him as he launched his first cast. 3 feet of line teardropped from the first eyelet and was cradled softly in his left hand. 8 feet hung from the reel loosely uncoiled and the undulating glass around his knees. In unison, his left hand gripped the fly line with his thumb and index finger. He deliberately lifted his rod skyward towards the treetops, gently stopping at his ear for just the slightest of pause. The force of the line accelerated behind his head with a bobby pin type curl. He hesitated with a count of 1 1,000, 2 1,000. And allowed the wave of line to fully extend behind him. His elbow hovered close to his rib cage, barely moving. I could see him faintly inhale and exhale. Tick. Well, look at that. tick, tock, tick, tock. His eyes were fixated on the horizon, keeping each cast parallel to the water. And in slow motion, his casting arm dropped to a 45-degree angle, fluid and flawless, with emphatic purpose. Like a gavel falls in a judge's hand. Leader in line surged forward, and each coil unfurled in its repetition. 3 feet line siphoned through each release of line, regulating each false cast with direction, distance, and placement. And in anticipation of his third cast, he cut the final punch short, allowing his fly to fall gently at its target. It reminded me of the poem from The Fisherman by W.B. Yeats. And he wrote, and I'm going to do my best Irish accent right now. I might butcher it. I'm so sorry. Ahead of time. Imagining a man and his sun-freckled face and gray Connemara cloth climbing up to a place where stone is dark with froth, and the downturn of his wrist when the flies drop in the stream. Yeats used a fisherman and the artistry of fly fishing to represent a man who was meditatively aware of the universe and his own place within it. He was one with nature and is left to ponder life's struggles. It was in that space where trepidation is met with peace and harmony. The fisherman in the poem represents the everyman in each of us. Woman, man, human. Each one of us can benefit from the experience the fisherman embodies. Yeats must have known Ed. And in the renowned words of Forrest Gump, that's all I have to say about that. So, we had a couple of what I like to call movie scene situations right there. But I hope you enjoyed a little bit from the novel. I know sometimes I stumble a little bit. I get really nervous and excited about reading aloud. I'm a much better writer than I am a reader, but nonetheless, I'm getting better at it each and every time that I have an opportunity to get in front of people. Even though that I spent 30 years in front of kids. Go figure that one, right? But I've got a little Q&A time if y'all would like to ask me some questions about what's going on. Or if you want to know a little bit about the backstory or whatever.
Yeah, I thought that was really good. And I have to say that Elk River Books is one of the few places where you could use a 9-foot-long prop casting down the aisle to demonstrate what you're writing about. I think that's incredible. Never seen that before.
I'm going to say thank you.
I kept thinking about, there's so much of fishing literature, whether it's, just anything that you can think of, pretty much, whether, it's the Bible, whether it's...
Old Man in the Sea.
Exactly. I was thinking of Hemingway. I was thinking of, just everybody you can think, river runs through it, that it seems almost impossible to write a fishing story without it sort of prompting metaphysical thoughts or metaphorical thoughts at the very least on the part of the reader. And there's something about fishing that lends itself to metaphor, lends itself to symbolism, and I wonder if you pondered that before you started writing the book here.
I started with a great story, what I thought was a great story. And fortunate for me, my cousin, who was my co-author, because she is fantastic at script writing. 11 years ago, we put this story into a movie script, and we shopped it in Hollywood. And there's so many little beautiful explosions that happened over the last 11 years. But to your point, I always thought that based upon my lunacy for fly fishing and knowing what it did in terms of helping me as just a human being in general, using it as a catalyst to reach those kids that, when I taught those kids in school, those kids that were throwaway kids, and bringing them into this fold, bringing them into this space, and giving them this outlet. I mean, there's a reason why that people fly fish that might be suffering from PTSD or angst or aggressions or that have any kind of mental illness. Fly fishing does it. It's a fixer. It fixes things. It's medicine. And I feel as though that utilizing this in the classroom was I had a club that I brought a lot of kids into that club to engage them in something that they would never be exposed to otherwise. And you heard that. And I thought, this story has merit. This story is validity. And I'm going to tell it the best way that I know how. And that's where that came from. So yes, I feel as though that stories that involve fishing, moreover fly fishing, are the stories that, I mean, they're gems. They're fantastic. And I felt as though that this story needed to be told. So I took a young lady that I had. She was like a really hardcore inspiration in my club that I was working with. And little black girl that didn't subscribe to anything. She was like, sure, I'll do this. I'm all about it. And then she took it and ran with it. And that young lady is still in my, I mean, we still talk today. She was at my a book signing exactly a year ago today, and supporting this whole process. And I'm so grateful. And I'm hopeful that they, if you're on YouTube right now, that you figure out how amazing this story is, and you'll want to talk to me, and we'll get this movie made. So, any other questions?
Is the woman who was the inspiration for the character, is that who is doing the audiobook narration?
Oh, no.
No, okay.
Another really, really cool thing. Thank you for prompting that, Mark. This last year was the year that I retired from 30 years in education. And fortunate for me, one of the young ladies that was in my English club and also in my classroom got a full ride to UCLA. Her name is Maddie Grant. And please, whatever you do, if you don't take anything away from this particular read tonight, remember the name Maddie Grant, because she will revolutionize what's going on in acting. She is fantastic. And what's so amazing is I know her, and she's awesome, and I love her dearly. And she did the audio version of this novel, and we just released it a total of 2 weeks ago. So if you like the audio version, please go pick it up as well. But you definitely need to get a novel signed tonight, so you can have that with you on your way to bed. You have some reading material.
question?
Yes.
I had an interesting conversation with some young 20-year-old white men, really great guys, and they were saying there was a sentiment that was like, why can't we just treat everyone equally and approach? Why does race have to be or gender have to be in the conversation? Why can't? Because if we really subscribe to the fact that we're all equal, then why don't we treat everyone equal and be colorblind? And I think that it just seems like your book is timely in the sense of a lot of the conversations going on right now. But what would you say to that if you are suggesting that it is especially important to get women of color into fly fishing?
Well, I think that once, it's no different than anything else. It's like, and there's a part in the novel where Maya goes absolutely nutso on a guy named Jake Cromwell, explaining this exact same answer to whatever it is, what you're talking about right now. I do believe that when if you're Latino, if you're Asian, if it doesn't matter what race or as far as ethnicity is concerned, the different degrees of melanin, again, like I said, should never be an issue as to why you don't fly fish. I think that when more people see people like them doing that thing, it's like, oh, well, they can go do it. I'm going to go do it. But a lot of that then there's the roadblocks are about exposure, and you have to have exposure to be able to know whether or not you're interested or not. And when you're interested, then you go investigate, and then with investigation comes a sustained hunger, and then that sustained hunger is what pushes you forward. That was the Maya Jones. Maya Jones found fly fishing unconventionally, and she was like, I can't live without this. It became her coping mechanism, and then that coping mechanism became her obsession. And now she becomes the face of fly fishing. She changes a narrative. And that's what all this is about. So, I'm hopeful. And again, I don't find fault in what the young men were saying to you. Why can't everybody just be equal? Well, you have to know whether or not you want something so bad to go out and get it. And you have to be exposed to it to go get it. That's my thing. So I'm all about exposure. I'm all about saying the hardcore concept of this novel is to go occupy the unexpected spaces. Go occupy the unexpected spaces. So, Michelle Kimbrell, first African-American fighter pilot in the continental United States. She was a badass. Still not a lot of women of color fighter pilots in the continental United States. Why is that? Those are great questions that have to be answered and addressed. And again, melanin should have nothing to do with it. So, I hope I answered your question. I just kind of kept weaving in and out of it. So, I hope you were able to take something away from that, because I don't necessarily know the right answer. I do know that the answer is embedded in exposure. So if your dad exposed you to fly fishing at an early age, I'm certain that you probably would have some knowledge about it, right? And you might go do it if you were into it, right? So, same principle.
Well, I think the modeling, and then also and the exposure, and then the sustained
Hunger.
support to actually it's investigation, but then it's practice.
Right, correct, right.
Yeah.
So that's what Ed. I don't want to ruin this for you. Do you really need to grab a copy? Any other questions? Those, by the way, these are great questions. Fantastic. Any more?
I have a comment.
Okay.
So I kind of feel robbed of the opportunity to have learned about fly fishing
Uh-huh.
in my family. My grandfather was one of the most amazing fly fishers around,
Mhm.
fishermen around.
Mm-hmm.
And I was never taken
Because you were female.
because I was female. So it's not just a melatonin, but it was
You mean
also,
melanin. Melatonin would have put you
Yeah,
to
that would have
sleep.
put me to sleep. Yeah, melanin. That's right.
Yeah, right.
Maybe it was the wine here. But I have a sense of loss, and I never had the opportunity as a child to grow up with that
But your
or to
brother,
have the exposures. But my brothers did.
Right. So, I mean, it's a ship. It's a ship that can be righted just like that. It can. It's a matter of pouring yourself into it, and it's a matter of knowing that it's okay to be in that space and fail miserably, and then learn from it, and then grow within it.
But I also know that when people in my family have gone fly fishing, they come back with a peace.
Mm-hmm.
It changes.
Mm-hmm.
a PEAC.
Right. Depends which piece. Right.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Definitely. Any more questions? Comments? All good? Mark? Awesome.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So, again, if you're able to, if you'd like to, I know that we're just like every Lowe's and Home Depot, they start putting out all sorts of material stuff so that you can be ready for the holidays in December. Don't be afraid to go ahead and pick up as many copies as you would need to share with the multitudes of family. Did I say that
Yeah.
politically correct? Okay, great. Oh, awesome. Well, thank you all. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Thank you.
And as soon as I